the first real point of the, and that's what we see also in Bhagavad Gita. First Krishna says, you observe. And then, what he starts doing with Arjuna? It starts chopping him to pieces. He starts cutting him. And that's exactly what is explained by Baladevi Devotion, quote this verse. And this verse is from Aila Gita, from 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where Pururava, he says, what is the use, I went into this amorous relationship with this girl, with Urvashi, and there's no point of this. So the first impetus, the next impetus to really develop our intelligence is sadhu sangha, by the cutting words of the sadhus, which cut our attachments in the mind. That's an extremely important point. Without that, repression cannot accomplish anything. This is a very ecological method of cutting the attachments. And we know it by our experience. When we meet with sadhu, some unimaginable things become easy ultimately. All these attachments which were very strong, by the words of sadhu, we have this initial impetus. There is this famous story, funny story about one thief who wanted to get married. Who wanted to actually rob the king, and he heard that the king, makes Swayamvara for his daughter. And the daughter was very saintly, so the king invites all the saintly persons and doesn't tell them that I'm going to give you my daughter, because he's afraid that no saintly person will come if he announces this. So all the saintly persons come, and this thief comes to the palace. He wants to check out, what is the room allocation and everything else. And all the saintly person sits, and the king says, here's my daughter. Somebody wants to marry her. And all the sannyasis get up and go out. And the rest, the king goes with the daughter one after another, and say, please take my daughter. And he said, no. What is the use? I'm not into it. What is the use? This is all useless. And this thief, he listens, and he with the great hope in his heart, he's begging when he comes to me. I will not be that stupid. I will accept it. He is in a proper dress and everything. And he listens what I say. And then the king comes to me, to him. His turn is there. And he says, this is my daughter. Will you take her? And he says, forget it. I'm not going to do this. And this is stupid. And he starts quoting the same arguments, the same things. Basically, that's what sadhusanga means. He had little sadhusanga, and sadhusanga cut the attachment, strong attachment within the mind, within the intelligence. It gives you a real impetus to think what is going on, what is the really values of life, what is really, is this life is what is this life is all about. So, because I have to really, the third point is very important. And it's actually the sequence of verses in Bhagavad Gita. This is, as I said, this is the explanation of 333 by Baladevi Devotion, 33rd verse of 3rd chapter. And the 334 is the next step in this analysis. In the next verse, Krishna says a very interesting thing. Here he says, nothing you can accomplish by repression of your nature. Don't even try. Just forget about it. And in the next verse he says, Indriyas indriyas akte ragadvesha vyavastito tayor navasham agachet tohyasya paripankito. In the next verse he says something very surprising and something which is seemingly contradictory to the previous verse. In the next verse he says, in the first verse he says, nothing you can accomplish by repression. And in the next verse he says, you cannot actually go under the control of raga and dvesha, which is there in the objects of the senses. You should stop it. Isn't it contradictory? In the first verse he says, you cannot do anything, and the next verse he says you should not fall prey of all these attachments which are already there, raga and dvesha. So listen, it's a very important point. The next point is very important. First is the observation which I said. Next is we have to get the initial impetus from the words of the sadhu, cutting words of the sadhu, heavy, severe words of the sadhu. But the next verse says, an explanation of Baladev Vidyabhushan is that you have to meditate and contemplate upon the rules of the scriptures. In the previous verse, he says, Baladev Vidyabhushan says, even if you know the rules of the scriptures, you will not be able to follow them. So the initial impetus to follow the rules of the scriptures should come from our association with sadhu. But the next stage of development of our buddhi, or our ability to discriminate between the matter and spirit, comes when we take the scriptures and meditate on the rules of the scriptures. This is an important point which I want to elaborate a little bit. This is how buddhi is being developed. This is what is described in the 7th canto by Narada Muni to Maharaja Yudhishthira, when he says that what happens, you get the impetus, you have raga and dvesha, you have attachment, they come to your mind, they agitate your mind, they pull you in a certain direction. What is very important at this stage is to know the scriptures, to meditate upon the scriptures, and to develop the opposite mentality, so to speak. This raga and dvesha operates through samskaras, or vasanas, which is more or less the same. Meditation on the scriptures, on the bad results of all this sensuous activity, or sense gratification, or sense pleasure, sex, and everything else, you can only deal with this properly, with this raga and dvesha, if you meditate on the consequences, because by meditating on the consequences and by meditating on the opposite things which are there in the scriptures, which forbid this and banning on this, you will develop opposite samskara, which will ultimately put the negative samskaras into rest.